there's a steamship that used to serve all the different stops around Lake Tahoe, and that was intentionally scuttled. But really cool way for folks at home, who enjoy watching this kind of exploration, to follow other expeditions that are going around the world, both on land and in freshwater bodies of water. There's like a meteorite expedition happening right now where students in Chicago are looking for fragments of meteorites found in Lake Michigan, or the meteorite went down in Lake Michigan. Now they're looking for fragments. Shipwreck expeditions. Some folks took a underwater drone up into a high altitude lake where a World War II plane had gone down into the lake. So lots of exciting science happening all around the world.
Yeah, I think Nat Geo is hosting Open Explore now, right?
Yep, they took it over. Yeah, there's some, we actually had Open ROV out here on Nautilus a couple years ago, and we actually hooked up one of their small, notebook-sized or textbook-sized ROVs into our system. So we were actually playing
Oh, that's awesome.
That feed over Nautilus Live. But they're actually starting to experiment with the same kind of broadcasting that we do. So you could go on to, their platform is Twitch TV. You can actually, which is a platform that's really popular with video gamers. So you can go on to that platform. Their vision is that you can go onto that platform and watch an ROV dive that someone is conducting, off the coast in their own backyard, and broadcasting around the world and being able to answer questions like we do. So a really cool way to get, people involved all around the world at all different levels without needing
and
a full research vessel.
I'll make a plug here for Walt's blog. He's been doing an amazing job documenting like every step along the way, from identifying the target that he wants to pursue, and then the whole process of doing the archival research and trying to figure out what his search area will be, and then the process as he's searching now for the proper boat to base it off of. But I actually got to be involved a little bit at the beginning, because he had called me. He was trying to figure out, like, he wanted to find a target that would be interesting, that would help demonstrate the capabilities of the ROVs that he's been working to develop, and that he could feature through Open Explore, and he had read about how there had been a NOAA expedition to identify the wreck of a U.S. Navy tug that had vanished in 1921 and had been found off the coast in the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary. And so there had been some recent articles that accompanied the 95th anniversary of that disappearance, and the announcement of the confirmation of the identification. And he happened to notice that one of the team members that was listed that had been on that final identification mission was me. So he called me up, and he was interested in Conestoga, the tug. And then as we were talking, I told him, well, my primary reason I was invited along on that particular mission was that it wasn't only to look at Conestoga. There were also some other potential targets that we were there to look at, including one that they suspected was an airplane wreck. So they had invited me along again as the historic aviation specialist, and it was they were looking for a Douglas AD-1 Skyraider that had been, or an AD-1Q Skyraider to be exact, that had had lost power and ditched off Point Reyes in 1951. And Walt thought, that sounds interesting. That could be a good target, because we had checked out this this sonar anomaly that they thought could possibly be the plane, and it did not turn out to be the airplane. So it's still out there somewhere. So he thought, like, okay, that sounds like something we might be able to look for. And I go, oh yeah, and the occupants, the pilot and he had a passenger, and both of them survived the ditching. And he's like, oh, that's good. So it's not a war grave or anything. And I'm like, yes. And as it turns out, the pilot, he actually went on to, I think, crash 2 more planes, and then unfortunately didn't make it the last time. So he's no longer with us. But his passenger survived, and is still living. And he's like, oh, really? And I go, yeah. And his name is Clinton Eastwood Jr.
No
He's like,
way.
what?
What?
And it's Clint Eastwood. Clint Eastwood was in a plane crash in 1951, and he lived through it. And he was he was in the Army. He was teaching life saving, teaching as a lifeguard. And he hitched a ride on a Navy plane coming back from leave at home, and the plane ran into trouble and ditched into the ocean, and he ended up swimming for his own life, and made it ashore, and then Walt was like, okay, that's it. Like I have to go after that one. So he's done an amazing amount of research, finding all the records from that time, and has a great search area that he wants to scour with the tools that he has, and he just needs to find a boat, and the right time to get out there. I guess it can be pretty rough area, but yeah. So it's called the search for Clint Eastwood Sky Raider, and I recommend you go and read all the incredible research that Walt is doing, and follow along as he hopefully finds this plane and tells that story.
Yeah, just pulled up the expedition log on OpenExplorer.com, and it's there's a lot there that he's already pulled out, which is awesome to see. But yeah, the offshore of Point Reyes is definitely pretty salty.
Yeah, and I gather they Clint got interviewed about this stuff again fairly recently, because he happened to make a movie about somebody who ditched a plane in the water as well. He had directed the Sully Sullenberger movie.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, with Tom Hanks. So they were talking about his own connection of having survived a plane crash in the water.
Wow, that's wild.
Yeah.
That's also a really cool way to tell the story of what we're doing, right? Because this expedition, on Nautilus is just under a week, but it's been 5 years in the making. So telling that story of, this is from conception, this is where the idea came from, and this is the background and how we got to all of the points that we are right now.
Yeah, and how they all kind of cross back and forth, with one another. That the whole thing originated with a call for identifying targets for exploration in the Eastern Pacific, and that was hosted by Ocean Exploration Trust and NOAA. And so 5 years later, here we are, actually on Nautilus in the spot where it all happened.
I just pulled up the map as well, and we have a couple of new countries popping on. Thailand, Japan, Iran, and Spain. Hello.
Wow.
Yeah, all over the place. We also have Finland, Russia, Sweden, Turkey, Germany, Netherlands, New Zealand, the UK, and the US. So there's a lot of lights lit up on the map right now. Very cool to see. And someone wrote in and said that they actually live near Music Point in New Zealand, but hadn't really heard sort of that story that we told about the radio there. So that's cool to also be able to relate some information to folks where they are.
Yeah, sounds like it could be a worth a trip. I understand it's a pretty beautiful spot, so might want to go check it out.
Yeah. And Russ, you were saying earlier you've been on the Nautilus once before, is that correct?
Yeah, I was on Nautilus in 2016. I was invited again as a historic aviation specialist because they were going to be checking out one of those targets that we proposed back at the workshop. In a paper I was able to had the privilege to co-author with Dr. James Delgado, who was then the Director of Maritime Heritage for NOAA's Office of National Marine Sanctuaries, and this was a target that he was very keen to get to, because it was in the Greater Farallones National Marine Sanctuary, and it was a wreck that they had imaged with first with hull-mounted multi-beam, and then later a follow-up with an AUV that was in development by Boeing called the Echo Ranger that revealed that this really was what they suspected, which was USS Independence, CVL-22, a World War II era light aircraft carrier that was sunk deliberately off the coast of Northern California to dispose of it after it had been very extensively used for post-war testing, notably as a target ship at the first 2 atomic bomb tests at Bikini Atoll, and actually survived being nuked twice. A little bit more bent and burnt and radioactive, but still afloat. And they had brought it back and studied it at Hunters Point Navy Yard, and actually used it to conduct experiments to try and figure out the best way to decontaminate naval vessels that had been irradiated in the nuclear wars that they were afraid were coming with the Soviets, and so they after a time they figured they had learned all they could, and decided to dispose of it offshore in what later became a National Marine Sanctuary. And so this was the first opportunity to go down and get a look at the ship for the first time since in 65 years. And yeah, so I got to be on board. Reported aboard and got my cabin assignment, and right there it was Ballard, R Matthews, R. So I got to be Bob Ballard's roommate for about 3 days, though we were on different shifts, so we weren't didn't hang out that much, but I'm happy to say that he does not snore, and I managed not to step on his face in the middle of the night getting out of the top bunk, so it was a big success.
Did you drink any of his Coke Zero, Russ?
I did not.
Oh man.
It was
okay.
very tempting, but no, I resisted. Though actually on this trip, I was given cabin 16 once again, and though I get the bottom bunk this time, and his desk and his fridge, which is full of Coke Zero. Yep. So hopefully the Coca-Cola people are listening and want to sponsor future Nautilus missions, because it could definitely be used. But yeah, so I was on board, and mainly because they had in that pass that Echo Ranger did over the wreck, they noticed that the elevator shafts that would bring the aircraft up and down from the hangar deck, the elevators were either in the down position, or the elevators themselves were just sort of blown overboard during the nuclear tests. But so the elevator shaft was open, and looking down inside there, somehow the sonar specialists had looked at it and determined, they thought there's something in there, and we think it's an airplane. And it's like, oh really? So they they brought me along, and we went out and kind of flew Herc down the flight deck and approached the forward elevator, and kind of looked all around and made sure that there was no obstructions or anything, and just very gently lowered it through the opening, and then tilted the cameras down, and the first thing we saw was leaning up against the forward bulkhead upright was the wing of an airplane, and you could see very distinctly the national insignia, for the United States, the stars and bars in white against a blue background, and then the camera tilted down and revealed the cockpit of the airplane, like still intact and still looking really sound. And the research that had been done beforehand, they had put test articles on each of the ships, and in fact, like they for the atomic bomb test, they set them up as if they were fully armed and prepared for war. So the aircraft were fully fueled and armed, and they wanted to know, like, what's going to be the effect on ships that are geared for combat. And so there was records of all the different types of planes that were on board and where they were spotted, and there were two that had not been accounted for that were both SB-2Cs, Curtiss SB-2C Helldiver dive bombers. So the feeling was, okay, well, one of them they simply just didn't get rid of it. It was just left on the ship, and that must be what it is. And that type of plane had a two-person crew, and so there would be there's a really extensive kind of greenhouse canopy system on top of it, and so the camera tilts down, and I realized right away that there's only a single cockpit, and there's kind of this distinct, like, humpbacked profile to it, and I was like I'm not seeing a Helldiver. This looks like a fighter plane. It's probably an F6F Hellcat, and that's what it turned out to be. And I was kind of because that's the whole reason they brought me was supposedly to be the airplane guy. So I was like, I better have been the one that spotted it. So
that was an incredible moment. I remember watching it from home.
Oh yeah,
and just hearing everyone kind of gasp when they peer into this elevator, and there's still a plane just sitting upright on on the seafloor. And that clip is on Nautilus Live. You can search for USS Independence.
It's totally recognizable. I mean, it's and the aluminum's still sound, and it's still painted blue, and you can see if you study closely, you can see the engine accessories on the nose, and the oil tank is still like bright yellow. And the engine's kind of falling forward, but you can see that, and then if you look closely, you see the machine guns, the three 50 caliber machine guns on each wing, and it looks like the cockpit framing of the canopy and the pilot's windscreen is kind of mushed down a little bit, like as if the thing had fallen into the elevator shaft and on its back and sort of crushed itself down a little bit, but had possibly been righted when they were moving things around in there, or during the sinking event itself might have been sort of repositioned upright in the. But it's sitting there. It's sitting there just sitting proud, and there's a really, as you mentioned, that clip is really cool, and it is available for viewing on nautiluslive.org.
I don't know that I've seen it, so I'm definitely putting that on my watch list.
Sure.
That's super cool. When we're discovering these wreckage sites, I mean, how much of them are typically sort of being taken over by marine life?
It depends on, really it depends on the depth, and the Independence, it was in, I want to say like 700 or 800 meters. I mean, so it's a couple thousand feet down, and so not a lot of marine life. There's some sponges growing on that wreck, but none had really found their way inside and onto the airplane. And these other there have been other deep wrecks, aircraft wrecks discovered in recent years that don't seem to have had any you know, colonization of any sort from marine life. I mean, the extreme depth and pressure and cold is kind of discourages that. And like, so with the lack of light, you know, no coral really grows at those great depths, and I think the cold you know, inhibits the bacterial growth that would you know, cause corrosion in a lot of instances. And so yeah, so you're finding, you know, recent years people have been finding you know, deep airplane wrecks that are astonishingly well preserved, and so it makes us you know, optimistic for the chances that the remains of Samoan Clipper could be really recognizable, really almost as if they, you know, almost as they were the day that this terrible tragedy occurred.
Right, there's not a lot of sort of environmental impacts that would, you know, cause the plane to corrode or, you know,
Right.
otherwise sort of fall apart.
Yeah, no real, you know, no organisms or really, you know, natural forces, no storm surges that are going to reach, you know, 3,000 feet down or 3,000 meters down, and you know, current, like if there was a strong current, you know, there might be some scoring, you know, where like it would pick up sand and grit from the bottom and constantly scrape away the oxidation on the aluminum surface.
Words
But
are hard after.
but we're yeah
so much.
yeah, we're this close to midnight. They're
Yeah.
they're a little tougher, and especially when you've said so many of them
Yeah.
up to now. But yeah, so we're not detecting a lot of subsea current in this area right now. So not thinking that that's really going to be much of an issue.
Well, hey there, Ed.
Hello.
Good to see you again.
Change it video.
So Samantha just took off, and now we have Ed.
Now playing the role of the video engineer, Ed.
How was your afternoon or evening?
I don't really recall what I do. Worked on some purchasing, tried to track down a missing piece of gear in shipment. Watched a movie a friend of mine directed.
Oh.
Got a little bit of sleep.
Nice. That's a productive afternoon.
Yeah. Was it Life, Love, Dogs? Documentary about 3 stories about people and their animals.
Oh, God. I miss my dog so much.
What's your dog's name?
Ruka.
Luca?
Ruka with an R.
Oh, Ruka.
Yep.
Huh.
He's my bud.
Not Denali?
That's too cliche.
I know. Everybody in Alaska.
Everybody in Alaska names their dog an Alaskan name.
Yep. Chugach.
Yep, that's a good one.
Yeah.
My
Kenai.
brother has an Alaskan Malamute named Sitka.
Hey, that's where I'm from.
That's where she's from.
Yeah, that's cool.
But how do you call that dog for short? Come here, Sit. That would be so confusing.
It's really
Sit.
confusing.
Sitka. Sitka.
Sitka. Is it a girl or a boy?
Yes, she's a girl.
I call him Kiki.
Yeah.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, we have a question. Do you think that it's possible to use some sort of water sampling sensor to sniff out where the Samoan Clipper is? They're specifically asking about rust or oil. So I think you know, we don't really imagine that the aircraft is rusting down where it is.
Yeah, no, it's well, I mean, aluminum doesn't rust for one thing, but yeah. So and the oil will have long ago dissipated. So I'm not even sure. I mean, that'd be fantastic if that technology exists. I just don't know that that there is something that would, you know, detect it in the concentrations that
Right.
would, you know, still be present. You know.
What the viewer might be referring to is we frequently talk about when we take a water sample at depth for biologists, we can take that water sample and filter that water through very, very sensitive filters, and then take those filters and run DNA tests on those. This technology is called eDNA, for environmental DNA.
Mm-hmm.
And we're able to determine which organisms have recently been in that water without having to observe them directly. Now that eDNA testing is not something you do in situ. It takes a while back in the laboratory. But we would have, we can only take, very, very, very limited number of water samples during a dive, and you have to know exactly where to take them. And if you knew where to take them, you'd be staring at an airplane. So, good thought, though.
Sounds like the kind of technology they might have had in the far-flung future of Sequest DSV.
Yeah.
Last year.
We dove with a chromatograph on a previous dive.
Yeah.
But you wouldn't get directionality, and you'd still have to mow the lawn to try and find that source signal.
Mm.
And if anyone actually remembers that show, at the end of each episode, was it every episode? I think it was. There was a little piece from Dr. Ballard.
Yeah, it was a callback to an earlier portion of the watch when a viewer had written in and asked if any of us had seen that show or Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. So,
Yeah.
and yeah, we were talking about Dr. Ballard's announcements at the end of the episodes. So.
Yeah.
So we also realized that the series took place in 2018.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
How does that
Oh,
make
man.
you feel?
Well, certainly Dan and I, and maybe to a lesser degree Russ and others on board, know the pain of filling out an online form and scrolling a very long way to find your birth year.
No, no.
It's like, it's got to be down here somewhere. I'm always overjoyed when the form starts at 1901, because now I've got a head start on everybody else.
Yeah, it gives you a little.
Yeah, I'm going to get there before those meddling kids.
All right, so we can't sniff for the Simone Clipper, but have we considered using metal detectors at any point in time?
You could. There are. Why am I forgetting the name of those?
Magnetometer.
What's the thing called? Magnetometer. Thank you. But those, you still have to be in fairly close proximity to what you're looking for.
And far away from Argus.
Yeah.
Oh, because Argus is made of metal.
Found it.
Yeah,
It's
really
right above me.
The only steel components and ferrous components you'd find
The
on
engines.
Simone Clipper would be the engines. Yeah, so.
And so we sort of, cover both of those with this side scan sonar, right? In terms of
Cover more area.
Yeah.
Yeah. The only concern would be if it was in an area of high sedimentation, but I think all the rocks that we've been seeing pretty successfully argue against that.
And I think there's also an issue that volcanic rocks can interfere with magnetometers
Yeah.
as well.
Oh, I didn't know that. Yeah, we have most of the, or all of the rocks maybe that we've sort of been logging have been made of basalt or carbonate, which are both volcanic rocks.
Yeah. And that's not to say that magnetometers are not a useful tool in searching
Right.
for wrecks in the ocean. I mean, I know that they were used pretty successfully in looking for like sailing ships and like Spanish galleons, that might have had iron cannon on board that would, that you're not necessarily going to find much of a sonar signature on a wooden shipwreck that has deteriorated away, but you'd have pretty good targets in these, a ship that might have been laden with 40 iron cannons and the ammunition for those, the cannonballs as well. So
Yeah, if you had a small form factor one, it would be interesting to go to a place that's got large other things like I don't know, Truck Lagoon or something, and see if you can find smaller items in the sediment. But
right.
There's a lot of iron down in that lagoon already, so.
I feel like every kid must have gone through a metal detector phase. Did you, Alyssa?
Yeah, maybe. No, I always thought I was intrigued by them.
Actually, I don't think I did,
You didn't?
weirdly enough.
Yeah,
Huh.
I totally did. I was like obsessed with it. Running around my backyard, my parents
for
were
treasure?
like, yeah, my parents were like, there is no treasure in the backyard.
There used to be a Timex commercial where somebody finds a Timex watch on the beach and it's still running. That was their commercial. A guy with a metal detector finds it. And a couple years later, the 1960s comedian published a book of prank letters he had written to corporations, and one of them was a letter to Timex saying, "Hey, you found my watch. Can you send it to me?" That guy went on to become Father Don Novello on Saturday Night Live.
Oh, really?
I was really hoping we were going to get Mike a plane for his birthday.
Well, it's not. We've got 54 minutes
yeah,
left.
that's true. I haven't thought of that.
I know that's what he really wanted.
Maybe we could run over to Apia and then come back. That way we've gone back to his birthday. Oh, no, wait, that would be
Nope.
ahead. Sorry. I've already used that ticket
Wrong
once.
time travel, yeah.
Yeah.
You've already gotten your extra
I
day.
got my 2 Saturday, July 13th in.
Yeah, my dad, his birthday is on July 13th, and I texted him from New Zealand, happy birthday, and then I texted him again the next day from American Samoa. I was like, Dad, you just got 2 birthdays.
My dad's birthday was on the 9th, which I did not have a July 9th. I was in transit. I left on the 8th and got somewhere on the 10th.
Yeah, that's true. Transit days are sort of, or like flying days are sort of just non-existent.
I called him in advance.
That's good.
Yeah, I flew to the Marshalls from Hawaii on my birthday one year, so I lost a day. Lost that day. I skipped right over it.
I sailed on a vessel out of Pearl Harbor, and we stayed on Hawaii time for various reasons, all the way up to Midway and then down the Quadge. And we got in the Quadge on St. Patrick's Day. And it was a long leg. It was, I think, 40 days or something at sea. And I was really looking forward to St. Patrick's Day. Nice, fun day to get to port. And as soon as they put the gangway down, they made an announcement that the ship's clock has now been adjusted to local time, Friday, March 18th. I was like, oh, wait a second.
That's the worst.
Yeah. Where did St. Patrick's Day go? Still, I loved Kwajalein. Loved Kwajalein.
I am pretty excited when the same day that I leave Samoa, I arrive in San Francisco.
Yeah.
So
did I tell you the airport photo thing? No.
I don't know if you did.
My wife and I took selfies of ourselves in the airports in Phuket, Thailand, Changi Airport in Singapore, was that the old Hong Kong airport? No, it's probably the new Hong Kong airport. LAX, Portland, Oregon, and and Seattle, all on the same day.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Yeah.
That is the longest travel day ever.
Happy holiday travelers, and we just end with tattered shells of human beings.
Like there is a soul in there somewhere.
Yeah. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, 6 airports in a day. I've also.
I'm totally gonna steal that idea from you. I like that.
I've had gone from like the Marshall Islands to Honolulu, and then gone to get onto my next flight. And after you clear into the U.S. in Honolulu, they kick you out into the Genoa airport, and you have to come back through security. And my boarding pass wasn't working because it had been. This is like 5 in the morning or 10 in the morning, and my boarding pass had been issued that night. So it's pretty easy to prove you're not a time traveler.
Ugh, the joys of travel.
I had a friend who thought, how there's these like, I don't know anything about lotteries, but there's like some mega bazillions lotteries, and they recently had one that was like $0.6 billion or something. And his theory was there was no actual lottery. That was just a trap for time travelers.
How does it trap them?
That they would go back in time and try and claim the $0.6 billion by having the right
The
numbers.
right numbers?
Yeah. That
Masterful.
was just a trap.
Didn't Stephen Hawking have a party for time travelers?
Yes.
But nobody
Yes.
showed up?
Yes.
That's such a bummer.
Yeah.
That's what I call all my parties.
But
Maybe if you had them on land, more people would show up.
Maybe.
Oh,
Rough.
the wrath of Suna.
I know.
I still have to get my Argus pilot picture from this leg.
What? I'll bite.
The photos of all the Argus pilots with the vehicle. Man,
Is
this
that something you
gonna
do?
be hard to find. When we have a unique leg like this one, yeah. Where was the last one? Where was I before I left the boat? I think it was in America. None of these pictures. Oh, unique. Oh, maybe. Vienna. San Francisco. Wish my Photos app was smart enough I could just type in Argus. Oh, there it is. So we need a similar photo to that.
Nice.
Yeah. All of our Argus pilots in one photo, since Argus is unmanned. This leg is worth celebrating. Still gonna have to work up some contingency plans for the next leg, which is sanctuaries, which will be a lot more biology focused, and how to restrain Peyton, who's going to be jumping out of his skin.
oh my gosh, Peyton is just going to have the best time.
Man.
Have you seen his comics?
Yeah.
Oh, he's so talented.
I haven't seen Bob Argus yet. Miles, have you seen Peyton's drawing of Bob Argus yet?
I have not. I only saw him.
I know he's working on it
a little bit.
I've not seen it, but I'm really looking forward to it. I thought Bob looked like the guy on the old cans of Mountain Dew, like the coveralls, no shirt, the straw hat.
Have you guys done, you know, like a description of what Bob Argus looks like? Or is he just, is he operating off
great
the
hands.
cuff?
He's heard, he's heard the story. Somebody wrote in asking Rennie to tell that story, and he did, so.
Trevor, I think you were supposed to tell me the Bob Argus story.
It's hard now that we've moved the camera because people can't really see.
We
You mean move the HPU? 'Cause
Yeah,
now
yeah.
It's
Well,
in San Pedro.
Yeah.
Okay, I can tell the Bobby Argus story.
Yeah, I feel like this is a good time. Good time as any.
Okay, can you see the multi-viewer from where you're sitting?
She can punch it up on her thing. If you push multi over there, multi-view, it should be on your far right. There
You see
you
camera
go.
12 down at the bottom there?
Yes.
So that is a bunch of gauges telling us hydraulic pressures. And I'm trying to figure out what the best way to tell this story is.
So that camera, if you look at camera 13 or camera 5, which are the same, they look the same. So
Yeah, they look the same.
it very much looks like just any camera on the vehicle that's showing a bunch of gauges.
So 13 and 5, these are on Argus?
13 and 5 are absolutely on Argus.
Okay.
And so Rennie had been working here for
Probably 3 or 4 years by this point.
I'm going with 3. I
Sure.
think 4 is pushing it.
Okay.
3 years. And camera 12, which shows some gauges, is actually here on the vessel. But it's in an area that rarely does anybody ever go near or by, or
Okay.
it used to be. And he was up here during a dive, and he saw some flickering of light around those gauges, and suddenly a hand reached up on the gauges. It might actually have been me. Was it? Because I used to go down and adjust that camera. And he thought somebody was in or on Argus.
And this is at like 1,000 meters of depth or so. This is not just a casual Argusing. This is
Like, wait a minute. Somebody's down there.
his whole brain broke. Just destroyed his worldview of how.
To be fair, okay, so looking at this, right, the one on Argus, there's 1 meter of some kind, gauge. And then the one on the boat, there's like 10 gauges. And
Well, there used to be 4.
okay.
Yeah.
What did he say?
Man,
What can you say?
Yeah.
What can you say to
Right.
that?
Can you?
I don't remember where
Can you even get words out?
Yeah, I don't think he could for like a while. I can't remember where the name Bobby Argus came from, but
Yeah,
that was named.
Yeah,
The person that rides Argus and cleans the gauges
Bobby Argus.
was named Bobby Argus.
That's who it's named after. The pilot is down there.
The person who, yeah. You know, what if you're mid-dive and you just can't read the gauges because there's some schmutz on them?
Bobby
so
It's
reaches
true.
over
Bobby
and
just
cleans
cleans them up for us.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
The funny thing is, though, like, you have such tight bonds with people on a vessel that when you make a horrendously stupid mistake like that, like, the first thing you do is share it with them because you know how much they're going to enjoy hearing what you just did.
Oh my goodness, that was exactly what I needed at 11:17 at night.
Yeah. Oh.
Quit having so much fun.
Good fun.
This is supposed to be work.
Why be out here if it's not fun? Just trying to stay amused until we see this aircraft.
Are we making a turn? Is that what's being reflected?
I'm not exactly.
No,
Are we
we're
going down to the
up.
holiday?
We're going up a slope, I think,
Oh.
and it's rocky.
Rocky slope.
Oh, I just saw your log entry. Climbing up a slope.
Miles,
Isn't
are we
it
doing these?
sophisticated?
Are we doing the north-south lines now, or are we going down to pick up that holiday?
North-south.
Okay. And south is easier than north, yeah?
Hopefully not,
Really?
because we're doing all right heading south. So if it's worse heading north, then we got issues.
Okay. Wait, what was it? Yeah.
We going next to the western line?
We will stop 1 west, yes. hopefully we get there before the end of watch.
The ship may.
Yeah, how long does it take Argus to catch up to the ship when we're turning those lines or starting a new line?
20 minutes.
Okay.
When you work at 6,000 meters, it takes forever to do ship moves.
Argus can go to a depth of 6,000 meters, right? That's where he kind of maxes out?
Correct, but Hercules is limited to 4,000.
4,000.
And the cable is only 4,400 meters.
On Hercules? Or on Argus?
The cable on the boat.
Oh, the cable on the boat.
And Argus can't go to 6,000 meters here.
You are on a roll. Where have you been this whole watch?
Sleeping. Actually, not your whole watch. What are you, 8 to 12?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I went to bed at like
Sure are.
9 or something. Maybe 8 something. Time quickly becomes irrelevant, let's see. Unless it's time for watch.
Or meals.
Or meals, yeah.
Meals, I set alarms for those. I set alarm for all that.
How many alarms do you have on your phone right now active?
You know what? I just took a bunch of them out. Oh, active alarms? That's easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5.
Ah.
5. 1, 2.
Wish the viewers at home could have seen you using all your fingers this time.
Yeah. I'm glad I didn't have to count higher. But I just leave the ones in there that, like, if I end up on the 4 to 8 watch, I leave all those alarms in there and just turn them off. That way I don't have to program it differently every leg.
Do you ever forget to turn off an alarm and you wake up to it?
You know, no, the worst is you wake up before your alarm, which is great on a boat. There's nothing better than waking up before your alarm. You're in control of your life and you're not getting prodded to go and do something.
Never happened.
And you're like,
to
this
me.
is awesome. I'm going to go take a shower and be early.
Oh,
Your
I know
roommate's
it.
asleep, so you're nice
Yeah.
and quiet. You go to take a shower, and you come back and your alarm's going off because you forgot to turn it off because you got up before it. And so your poor roommate's in there listening to I Got You, Babe, over and over again.
Ugh. So we each do 2 4-hour shifts a day, and the same crew is on every watch. This is the 8 to 12 watch. Samoa, unless you're Ed or Sam.
No,
or
you're
you
saying
wanna-
that, but you've had 3 people in the video chair on your
I
watch.
know it's true. Well, I'm just
kinda-
not counting you guys.
Right,
You're
yeah. We're an outlier.
now I lost my train of thought. 2 shifts a day. We're 8 to 12.
Yep.
There's
So
2
8
other
a.m.
watch teams.
to
Oh,
noon.
to answer your question, we have 37 minutes left on this watch. And then the 12 to 4 team comes in. That's where I was going with that.
There you go.
Yeah.
37 minutes left to get Mike his birthday present.
Yeah.
Now the pressure's really on.
Local time.
And probably last of the world time, too. To get Micah's birthday present?
Oh, yes.
Are we the last time zone?
I
Yeah.
think so, yeah.
Yeah. Is there a
Or
minus
mine-
12?
I
don't
don't know,
actually
because Samoa's in the same time zone as us, just on the other side of the date line.
Is plus 13?
No, you go to minus.
No, that's correct. Plus 13. We're at minus 11.
Oh,
and
yeah,
they're
yeah.
Plus 13.
Yeah.
Okay, wow.
So is there a minus 12? Are we the last time zone in the world? That feels
think
like
so,
kind of a
'cause-
big deal right now. I don't know.
Yeah, when you put it that way.
Yeah, like we're the last people to see July 17th.
Wow.
Whoa. Bring it in.
Whoa.
Whoa. You were just cracking yourself up over there.
I got to do something for 5 hours.
Yeah, so what's your watch schedule like? Are you guys just...
We're short-handed this leg. We're
Mhm.
down one person, so we only have 2 people to fill the seat. So Stephen and I have extended our watches by an hour each,
Mhm.
and then we're using other personnel to sit in for that 2-hour gap. So he goes an hour longer than his assigned watch, and I start mine an hour early.
And that's why Sam and Allison have been
Yeah.
sitting in with us.
Yep. And then we fix that next leg when we are fully staffed.
Is he gonna
Fingers
make it
crossed.
out next leg?
What's that?
Is he gonna make it like next
Yeah.
leg?
Yep. Our
Cool.
our intern is all set. Ticket in hand, valid passport, good to go. And then Mary Nichols is going to swap out for Stephen. Mary's
She's just doing the one
maybe-
cruise, right?
yeah. I could be wrong, but she might have the longest history with the organization of the contractors.
It's probably true.
Yeah.
More than
Yep.
Suna?
She was there in 2010. I
Yeah.
think.
Wow.
She was doing mobile system work before the boat, long before the boat.
Oh, that's right.
And then she
was.
did the Jason project.
So Greg's been there for a while.
Yeah.
Yeah, Greg was there too.
Gabby. Gabby was
Gabby,
2008.
I think
That's true.
Yeah. 2008?
In
Yeah,
a
something like that.
different capacity
She was in Nav.
and science.
Oh, we have an expedition call in the morning too, I think. No, it's just for department heads. Yep, 8 a.m. That calendar is just a mess. Every time, I think there's a Google thing maybe. I get email notifications of all my staff flights, and so it automatically adds them to my calendar.
Oh, it's really convenient when you're
So-
using your own travel.
Right, but like on Friday, I'm flying to Houston, and I'm flying to Auckland, and I'm flying to Auckland again the day after that, then I'm flying to up here. You know, it's like, no, I'm not. That's somebody else. We have an interaction next leg with the University of Azores. Where's that at?
For some reason, I want to say
It's an
Los
island, right?
Angeles, but
Oh, really?
I
think
may have
Azores
just made
was
that
a
up.
country.
let's Google it. Does anyone
Watch,
know?
it's going to be part of Turkey now. I'm going to get beat up even more.
What was that?
Portugal.
Azores. Oh, it's
Yeah, the
is it an
Azores are-
island? Was I right
yeah,
about
in
that
the
part?
South Atlantic, I think, right?
Yes, I was right about that part. And it is, ooh, yeah. It's aligned with like Spain, so I'm not sure I'd call that South Atlantic. Definitely north of the equator, maybe not even in the tropics.
It says there
No,
are multiple
Central
campuses.
Atlantic.
It
Yeah.
aligns with like New York
Ah,
or DC maybe. Is it near Tenerife?
no, that's the Canary Islands.
It's an autonomous region of Portugal. Looks beautiful.
Sina, what are those other sea cucumbers called with the like little arm tentacle thingies that come out?
The wider ones?
Yeah.
I thought they were Penigoni, but I'm not sure. I mean, there are not a lot good pictures in the internet, and we can't really zoom in on them on Argus either, because they're very fast and it's hard to focus. So I've been writing Penigoni ? I'm not sure.
And the other ones are Enypniastes?
Yeah.
Oh, the headless chicken fish.
Okay.
Headless chicken monster.
Are those the ones that are sometimes called Spanish dancers
Yeah,
too?
that's the same one.
Yeah. I think the Spanish dancer name works better.
I like headless chicken monster.
Well, maybe, yeah, when you see the still image of it, when you see it flying, it really looks like a Spanish dancer.
Also,
I
like,
think.
headless chicken monster is just a much better headline.
That'd be a good Twitter handle.
Yeah.
Hashtag no head.
Those are so pretty. Wow. Was that one that just floated down at towards the bottom of the screen?
Yes, I think so.
Likely. What's that non-committal answer on the Magic 8-Ball? Like all signs point to yes.
But there's like the fine print that's like, but I could point to no.
Yeah.
It seems like Google says they're kind of rare, like a rare species, but we've seen quite a few of them down here.
Are we still counting? Your watch doesn't count, do you?
No,
Not
I think.
anymore.
We've
no.
counted the most of any watch.
You guys count? One of the watches doesn't count.
Yeah, it's not us. We do.
Trevor takes great pride in his
Yeah.
sea
Not
cucumber
me, not
counting.
me.
Oh,
I
Miles?
think everybody stopped.
I'm proud of Miles.
Oh, no,
You're a
it's
good
the
friend.
other watch. I was on that watch for a while.
4 to 8 started it, and then 8 to 12 crushed it, and now everybody's just embarrassed and
Everyone
has
got-
stopped.
Yeah, everyone got shy.
We had almost 70 on one watch.
That's a
It
lot.
was incredible.
It was incredible.
I gave up after 20 or so, and then Trevor continued for at least another 30.
And then you did a couple more at the end.
Yeah, and we definitely let a few go.
A few, meaning like the last half of watch.
And
We just made the other watches feel bad at that point.
I think we're pretty comfortable that this is our longest Argus only dive?
Looks
Yeah.
like it, yeah.
Oh, Argus only?
Yeah.
For sure.
It's not our longest dive yet, though.
Because that was 70 some?
74, and we're at
70.
73.
Oh, wow.
Dee, there's an anipniastis, whatever. It's late.